Hello, and welcome back to the Fourfold Path. I'm Jordan Thayer. I am your AI consultant, tabletop role player, and fumbling soloist extraordinaire. And this is the first play episode of the Fourfold Path. So, we had talked about doing more world building, more setup, but I have to be honest, in the spirit of Yagni, you ain't gonna need it, and in the spirit of enjoying playing tabletop games, I thought I would just go ahead and get started with our first scene. You can see here I have Mythic open to a set of pages describing the first scene. And so there are two major ways to kick off a Mythic adventure. The first is an inspired idea. So, just to read the first few sentences, Mythic adventures are full of surprises, but you can always start with a fully formed idea of your own. You can think of these as what-if ideas, such as, what if my cybernetic superhero PC gets a lead on a shadowy organization that created him? So starting with a fully formed idea is an option. Alternatively, Mythic has tools for generating random events. And so we might instead generate a random event to start our game from. So if you want to start with a surprise or don't know what you have in mind, you can generate a random event to use as an inspiration. Now there are a few ways of making random events in Mythic. Well, there's a table to roll on, just like everything else in Mythic. So let me bring up my quick reference. A random event needs a random event focus. So it can be a remote event, an ambiguous event, new NPC, NPC action, negative, positive, moving towards or away from a thread, closing a thread, PC negative, PC positive, or current context. And so what the book suggests is, pardon me. So, since the beginning of your adventure, there's a good chance that your threads and characters lists are empty. I have a few. Ignore any result from the event focus table that calls for element from an empty list and use current context as the focus instead. So, I have an idea in mind for an inspired opening, but I thought we would try a random event to just really sort of engage with the solo system as it was imagined. So, let's see. We got a 56. A 56 on our table is move away from a thread. So if we go, I will forget what direction we're going. Move away. Thread. So let's just throw that out there for a second. We're going to move away from a thread and we're going to look at our Mythic list to see what threads we have. So we could be uncovering the secret lost math of the Pythagorean cult, or we could be moving away from graduate him whole. So we need a 1 or a 2. I don't love flipping the Shadowrun token, but that's what I'm going to do. You know what? I don't love flipping the Shadowrun token, but I do believe that I have actual coins over there. That'd be too loud. Let's flip the Shadowrun token. Okay. Heads is 1. Dragons is 2. So dragons is our dragons is our grad student, and heads is our pursuing the Pythagorean cult. Oh, that was super loud. I don't remember what I said anymore. I got heads. Let's do something that's numeric. Oh my god. Let's do something that's numeric. Evens are the graduate student and odds are the lost math of Pythagoras. Much easier. Evens. So we're moving away from the graduate him whole arc. So let's go and see what that is. So Tabitha has a PhD student. It's her first PhD student. He's a clever young man, anxious, doesn't have enough support at home, abroad. What I mean is in his personal and his professional life. She had a bad experience herself. She wants to make sure that he's getting out of the university experience, the PhD experience, an intact, whole, hale, hearty human being. So we know that we're moving away from graduating him whole, which means that some spoiler is about to come into this poor gentleman's life. So I don't have enough in front of me to know what that's going to be. So let's look at some meaning tables to see what we might want to roll on. An action. Some actions are good. Some descriptors could be useful. Adventure tone, alien species, animal actions, none of those. Those aren't it. Army, cavern, characters, no. Character actions, appearances, character personalities and conversations, motivations, dungeon traps, curses, domiciles. You know what? I think it's going to be actions. So let's generate a couple of nouns on the actions table. So what I like to do with actions is I like to roll once and then look on both actions tables to get my 2 words. So I rolled a 7. Assist, battle. Assist and battle. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not getting a lot of assist and battle. There are some things that could be assist battle. Let's see if I get something that I like even better, though, with another roll of dice. So that's a 39. That would be an easy hindrance. No, assist battle is what it is. So I think that our young friend, Janus, our grad student, is in a little bit of hot water, a little bit of legal trouble. So what I'm imagining in assist in battle is poor Janus got pulled into a bar fight. He was out drinking with someone, and there were some rowdies at the local college bar. Maybe some of the frat boys got overserved and picked a fight with someone that looked at them the wrong way. Let me look up Janus. Let's look at what he's like as a person, because I wrote some stuff down that could help us here. So he's conflict avoidant, but also desperate to prove himself, and he doesn't like to be emotional. So he's not out of shape. He just doesn't do a lot of working out. Okay. Here it is. He and his bouncer friend, or the radio tech, we don't really have a lot of specificity, but his local music scene friend, right? They're out on the town drinking that night. Maybe they're getting ready to go to a show. Maybe they're coming from an early show and getting ready for a later one too, and like doing a double feature kind of a thing. They go to a local bar. They have a few drinks. They see some guys in the bar hassling a group of young girls. And Janus wants to leave it the fuck alone. And this guy needs a name. So we'll have to... we don't have to come up with a name. So it's Tony. His name is actually Anthony. But everyone calls him Tony. So Tony and Janus are at this bar, and the frat boys are hassling. The frat boys are hassling the young ladies who are there. So, sorry, I needed to fix the camera's focus. Anyway, Anthony and Janus are at the bar. The frat boys are bothering some women at the bar. Anthony inserts himself into the situation, ever the gallant hero. It's like, you leave those ladies alone. Obviously, they don't want your company. And the frat boys decide that they don't care to be talked back to that way, and have their evening fun, perhaps interrupted, because they're sort of confident that they could land these ladies or at least get them to leave with them. And like it was getting a little touchy and a little physical in a way that some of the girls were complaining. And rather than waiting for the bar bouncer to step in, Anthony bounces at a club. He knows what to do in these situations. He inserts himself. And he assumes that with a little bit of authority and a little bit of pressure, the frat boys will back down. Well, unfortunately, there are like 6 or 7 of them, and they've all been having Jaeger bombs just all night long. So they think that they can fight God, and certainly that they can fight Anthony. So one of them takes a sucker punch at Anthony from behind, and it doesn't particularly matter like what the actual combat looks like. That's not where we're coming into this, because it turns out that I need to get some tokens for these guys eventually. But it turns out that Janus and Anthony are not NPCs with stat blocks right now. So we're not going to deal with them in combat against the frat boys and whatnot. We know they're going to lose. One of them tries to sucker punch Anthony. He manages to handle himself well in the fight. But it's like 6-on-1. And he's not going to hold out. And Janus is not going to just fucking sit there and watch his friend get wailed on. And so Janus enters the fray and joins the melee. And these two boys are in this rumble with the frat guys when the local constabulary shows up, right? And there's a drunken, disorderly crowd. It turns out that Janus and Tony are relatively sober, but they all get rounded up and put in the drunk tank and asked if they wanted to like mutually press charges and blah, blah, blah. But they're there in the drunk tank to cool off when poor Tabitha gets the call. Because Anthony and Janus, they've got one phone call, and Janus would call Tabitha, right? She's going to be the one that deals with this mess, because Janus doesn't want to call his girlfriend. Let's say because let's say that antagonist in his life is his girlfriend, and she's gonna need a name. So this will be like Sarah with an H, Janus's girlfriend. Okay, so we're gonna need Sarah, Janus's girlfriend. Janus doesn't want to call Sarah because she's going to read him the riot act. She doesn't like Anthony at all. They're against one another. And so Janus is like, I don't want to bring her into it because I'm in here with you. I know someone I can call. I'll make my phone call. She'll help us make bail. I'm sure it'll be fine. So it's like 10:30 at night. 9:30, 10:30 at night, because it had to have been late enough for the frat boys to really be mixing it up. And Tabitha gets this fucking phone call on her phone. And I don't know if you've ever received a phone call from jail, but it announces itself as such up front. So she picks up the receiver, and it's the whole, this is a phone call coming from blah, 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 blah. Would you like to accept? She sits there for a second. She's like, who would be calling me from a jail? And she answers, yes, this is Tabitha, last name. Who is this? What does Janus call her? Does Janus call her Doc? She likes him, right? We haven't really established the tone between these two characters, but I feel like it's her first PhD student. They're probably on relatively friendly terms. She's maybe 6 months or a year into it. But he's going to call her by her last name, and so we need a last name for Tabitha, because he's going to say Professor so-and-so. For right now, he's gonna say, Professor so and so, it's Janus. I'm in. I'm in jail. I'm in the holding cell. My friend Tony. I got into a bar fight. I know that it's late, but I don't have anyone else I can call. Can you help bail me out? And how is Tabitha going to respond to that? I think that first of all, she's going to say, Jesus Christ, Janus, how many times do I have to tell you? It's Tabitha. And secondly, don't you know this is what bondsmen are for? You call the bondsmen and they help you post bail. Did no one tell you that? It's not like the movies. You don't call a friend, you call the bondsman. Did Janus not know, or did Janus not have the money for a bondsman? He's really poor because he's, a grad student. So I think that's a good fake question. Did Janus not know that was what he was supposed to do? Or did he just not have the money to make bail? I'm going to say that it's likely that he doesn't have the money to make bail. So that's this cell on the fate chart. I must roll a 65 or less for the answer to be... Oh, I got to remind myself of this. I never get it right. How to read the fate chart. So... with a central large number showing the percentage chance of a yes answer. Rolling equal to or less, it is the yes answer. So here, if I roll less than a 65 or less, that's yes. If I roll 13 or less, that's very yes. And if I roll 94 or more, that's very no. So the question is Janus too poor to afford bail? It's likely. All right, so I rolled a 75. He is not too poor to afford bail. So he just didn't know any better. They didn't tell me that. They just said I got a call and to call someone to come pick me up. And you're the only person I knew who I could call. Tabitha's going to be aware that he's dating. So I'd ask you why you didn't call Sarah, but we can talk about it on the way back. I'll get my things and I'll be there in an hour. So Tabitha gets dressed, gets in the car, drives down to the station, and shows up. Walks into the front, talks to the desk clerk. Yeah, my student called me. They said they'd been picked up in a bar brawl. Back and forth, name. It's Janus. Janus last name, because Janus also doesn't have a last name. All right. Yeah, he was picked up on disorderly conduct. He and his friend have a, bail is set at blah, 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 blah. They have a court date here for a misdemeanor hearing. You can pay to have them released into your custody. So this hasn't worked. In part because I'm tired. In part because this is a scene with no real stakes, right? They're just gonna be released from the county drunk tank with a summons for the next day. So there's only going to be interpersonal conflict between Janus and Tabitha, and it's not going to be super interesting on some level from a Threads perspective. No, we can turn this around because Tabitha's going to have to interact with some people to get this righted. And it's going to be okay. Sorry, I was sitting there thinking, is the scene going to actually work out in the narrative of the thing? Okay, great. So, is Tabitha going to pick up Anthony too? She's gonna pick up Janus. And she's gonna focus on Janus at the first. Get him out. And they're interacting, right? And Janus says, "Thank you so much for coming down, Professor. Really appreciate the help." And Tabitha is gonna say, "Yeah, you'd fucking better. You'd better appreciate the help. It's you know, it's late. It's a Friday night. You don't know what plans I had that you interrupted for this." And like, I get it, I really do, but it wasn't as if they separated us when they put us in that holding tank, and it felt like it was going to escalate. Where's Janus? Where's Tony? I bailed you out. I didn't bail your friend out. Oh, please, Tabitha. They'll eat him alive in there. So, has it already escalated to violence between Tony and the other frat boys that are in there? I'm going to say that it's unlikely that it's come to blows. So we need to roll over a 35. We rolled exactly a 35. So it has come to blows in there. So Tabitha goes back to the desk clerk and says, "Sorry, I need to bail another one out. He was booked with an Anthony." And the desk clerk says, yeah, he was. What's your relationship to them? And she says, the two of them are friends, and he's my grad student. And so he's calling back to get the discharge, and then he says, "Sorry, there's been a." He informs them, right? "Sorry, there's been a further altercation in the holding cell. Your friend picked a fight with the boys he was brought in with. We can't. We're gonna have to. There are gonna be further charges, more processing. We're gonna move them to. They're probably gonna be for starting a fight while already under custody, because they were really just there for. They were really just there for drunk and disorderly. Now they're like on assault charges, and they're going to be held at least for a while, just to sort of, give them time to cool off and punish them a little bit." So, so yeah, we don't get Anthony out of here, unfortunately. So we may have a new thread later. I'm just going to take a note for it. Anthony's legal trouble. Assault on frat boys. Just to keep a note of sort of what's going on outside of our control. So... Janus apologizes for the trouble. Tabitha says, I can't wait here for your friend. We're just going to go ahead and go. So the two of them get underway. They get back, they load back up in Tabitha's car. And it doesn't particularly matter where Janus lives. Janus is a grad student. He almost certainly lives off campus. He probably lives in an apartment complex, not like directly on campus, but like a 10-minute drive away or something. So Tabitha says, "Janus, let me just drive you home, and then we can talk about this in the morning, okay?" Yeah, Doc. Professor so-and-so. Yeah, Professor so-and-so. Whatever you say. Thank you so much for coming and bailing me out. And they drive towards his house, and on the route there, she spends the bulk of the time lecturing him, because why did you go and get into a bar fight? Do you have any idea what this is going to do to your further academic prospects? You're going to have to go in front of the dean, and they're going to review your behavior against a code of conduct. And Janus is going to defend himself. Janus is going to say, there were guys in the bar that were harassing some girls. My friend Tony stepped in. They sucker punched him. I stepped in, and it just became a huge thing. And Tabitha is going to be... She strikes me as the sort to be just fucking exhausted, right? She's just tired about it. She's like, Janus. You did the right thing, but you can do the right thing and still have terrible outcomes, and you're going to have to learn that sooner or later. She's a pragmatist, I feel like. And Janus isn't exactly an idealist, right? He's not really an idealist, but he is desperate to prove himself. No, that's the wrong person. Let's go back to Tabitha. She's... Yeah. And she's like, look, we'll deal with it as it comes. We will, it'll be Saturday, but I will put in a call with the head of the department tomorrow and we'll have a chat. You stay at home for a little bit and we'll see you Monday, okay? Stay out of trouble for the rest of the weekend. Don't go pick any more fights. Just, chill. And so she drops Janus off at his place. Is Sarah there? So it's a Friday night. Janus has a steady girlfriend with a fairly rocky relationship. It's not exactly healthy. And is she out looking for him, wondering where he was? I'm going to say yes, because it'll be interesting if she's there, like, buzzing his apartment number and he rolls up with another woman. So let's say that it's very likely that she's outside of his door. 33. Okay, so that's doubles. That's a problem, right? That's doubles within the chaos factor, I want to say. Let me go look at my quick reference. So over the chaos factor, odd within the chaos factor is an altered scene. I think that's still true here. So once again, I'm gonna sort of employ the clacker while I go and look up the actual rule. So what is the actual rule here? Whenever you ask a fate question where there's a possibility of random event occurring, if you get a double number whose digit is equal to or less the chaos factor, then a random event occurs. Yeah. So so the rules here say that we rolled doubles within fate. So we get a new random event. So we happen to have the random event table up in front of us. So let's roll and see what we get on it. We got a 99. A 99 is current context. So there's a random event in the current context of the bar fight and Tabitha delivering Janus back to his house. And what is the... Do I want a descriptor or do I want actions? I want actions. I like actions for random events. 83. It's a start safety. Safety start. That doesn't mean anything to me. What if instead it was positively rough? No, none of those mean much to me either. Dungeon traps, gods, legends, names, no. Objects, plot twists maybe. Response, no. response doesn't mean too much to me either. Visions and dreams, terrain descriptions, no. All right, let's try again with the action table. Let's see if we get something a little bit better, a little more descriptive. 43. So never be afraid to re-roll on these tables when a description doesn't evoke anything in you. We're going to fail to illness. Fail, illness, start, safety. Start, safety. Okay. So I think I have something. So safety, I'm thinking of public service, safety things. So they roll up. Sorry, noises outside. So they roll up to Janus's apartment. They get ready to pull up to the apartment complex, and as they round the corner, they see the flashing lights and the sirens. They don't hear the sirens, but they see the flashing lights of it's at least fire trucks. Is it also police officers? So in my head I was like, so start safety. So there's like a fire incident and the fire trucks are there. I don't think it's going to be a violent thing, although it could be. Let's see. Let's ask a fate question. Let's ignore if we get another random event. I'm not going to have a cascading random event here. To hell with that. Are the flashing lights that we see as we roll up towards Janus's apartment, are those from police cruisers? And I'm going to give it a 50-50. Oh, and because we have a random event, our chaos stuff will go up in this in the scene, but it doesn't need to go up immediately. So let's go to 50-50. Are they fire sirens? They are not fire things. So since they aren't fire, they are police. So there are police cruisers pulled up outside of Janus's apartment, and like it's not for a random house or for a random apartment. It's got to be related to Janus somehow. So they pull into the parking lot, and there are police sitting outside of the building. A couple of different cruisers. And Tabitha, as she rolls past, she rolls down the window and greets the officers and says, "Hey, what's going on? I've got this kid lives here. I'm just dropping him off. Can he get into his apartment?" And he's there for Janus, right? They're there, and they're like, yeah, we're getting ready to clear out. We're just there's been a break-in, or there's been violence. There wouldn't be violence that was related to him, unless his girlfriend tried to break into his apartment and got violent outside. That doesn't make sense. So there's been a someone broke into the apartment complex and broke into Janus's apartment and stole a bunch of stuff. And they found out because why would there be a policeman there if it was just a break-in? Someone heard them break all the glass. They called the superintendent or whoever runs the apartment complex, and they came and checked. They came and checked on the thing. They knocked on the door to read Janus the riot act, but Janus wasn't there. They opened the door, even though they weren't allowed to, because it's a shitty, cheap apartment. They do that. And there's broken glass everywhere, and the place has been tossed. So someone broke into Janus's apartment. And so the police officer they're talking to in front of the building asks who they are, and they said, "Oh, it's like I'm Janus so and so." He says, "Well, then I'm gonna need you to park, and I'm gonna need you to step out of the vehicle. We have some questions to ask you." So they do so. They park. They go talk to the police officer, and the police officer is, taking down Janus's information, his telephone number, and it says, "Well, someone broke into your apartment tonight and tossed the place. Do you want to go through and catalog any missing belongings?" And Janus says, Janus asks to be let into his apartment. He says, it's really a mess up there. Like they broke all the glass. It's not summer. So Janus is Tabitha's first student. And we're about 6 months in, probably, because it's first students who doesn't have a second grad student yet. They've got relatively good rapport. This is probably like February. So it's cold, it's wet and nasty out, the glass is broken. He's like, it's not really a fit place to be tonight. If you have anywhere else to be, I recommend you go there. But like we need to take the statement, and then we'll put up some plastic so that water doesn't blow into your house for you, and you can come and start picking up the pieces tomorrow. All right? We need to process the scene and all of that. We'll call you when it's okay, because they're gonna dust for prints. I guess they'll obviously do that on an apartment break-in in Section 8 housing for poor ass grad students, right? It's definitely how the world works. It doesn't particularly matter. They're gonna investigate the apartment, take some pictures. It's not gonna be fit for him for tonight, and he wouldn't feel safe there anyway. But they take his statement, take his information. He was off in the drunk tank, and there's some question of whether or not the frat boys, friends of theirs, broke in here and tossed the place. It's like, how would they know who I was or where I lived? That's too quick. It doesn't make sense. But that's what the police officers write it off as. It's like, oh, there's this ongoing conflict. This is obviously the explanation, even though the timelines don't make any sense. Great. So Tabitha is just standing there watching this unfold. This poor kid just puts his head against the metal of the car and leans there for a second, catching his breath. And it's late now. It's really late. Like it's 11:45 midnight in there. And he's like, fuck me. And Tabitha's like, well, okay, so you can't stay here tonight. Where should I take you? Aren't you dating that girl? I was like, please no, not. I can't deal with that right now. Sarah's already in bed asleep. She was already mad at me for going to the show with Tony instead of spending an evening in with her, and I just will not be able to handle that. It's like, well, then where should I take you? Want me to take you to a hotel? And Janus, there's no way Janus can afford a hotel, right? It is very, like, it's is how dire are his financial straits? I will say that it is nearly certain that paying for an evening in a hotel will actually be difficult for him. Like, not that he couldn't do it this one time, but it will be an undue financial burden. This one is the 2. So 23 or 32, it doesn't particularly matter. Yes, it is an undue financial burden on the poor boy to go to a hotel. So instead, he's like, do you want me to take you to a hotel? And Janus sits there with his head against the metal of the car, feeling the cool night, right? Just like, oh, son of a bitch. No, like, he's like, I guess, but I really can't afford it, Tabitha. And Tabitha is going to sigh this deep, world-weary sigh. All right, Janus, look. It's late. I am exhausted. You have had the worst of nights. And then she sort of looks around the scene conspiratorially, like, get in the car. They both get in the car, and she starts driving away. He's like, where are we going? She's like, I'm driving back to my house, Janus. And you can sleep on my sofa. And you will not. And we will never speak of this again. Okay? Thanks, Tabitha. Yeah, Janus, sure. You know, she probably doesn't do the whole we will never speak of this again. She's like, look, the reasonable thing for you to do is to crash on my sofa. But, like, isn't that like a violation of ethics or the honor code? And Tabitha would say something to the effect of, I welcome the fight with the university over providing a place for you to sleep when you are worried about going back to your girlfriend after your apartment has been broken into, after you were in a bar fight protecting the honor of some poor girl from the frat boys. No one will ever hold, like, there are rules, of course, right? But they're not gonna, she's gonna be like, let's be realistic. They're gonna look at that set of circumstances and say, don't do that again. But that is a reasonable set of decisions to make given the circumstances. Beyond that, Janus, how would they know? Just don't bring it up. And so they drive to Tabitha's house. She puts him up on the sofa and they go to sleep for the night. And in the morning, Tabitha is going to have to take Janus back over to his apartment, and she is going to... Is she going to help him pick up the wreckage? He is her grad student. He is her first grad student. She wants him to get through the process reasonably. So they're going to go back over there. Does the night pass without incident? It is nearly, it's very likely that the night passes without incident. 64. Yes, the night passes without incident. So they sleep through the night. They wake up sort of later in the morning because they didn't get in so late. Tabitha is an extremely early riser, so even though they didn't get in until midnight, she gets up at like 8 a.m. 7:30, 8 a.m. Janus is laying awake awkwardly on the couch, looking at his cell phone, blown up from Sarah, who was like texting him all night, passive aggressively, I hope you're out having fun, kinds of stuff. And Tabitha gets up. She has an ensuite bathroom, so she just, she showers, she does her morning toilette. She comes out into her kitchen, she brews a pot of coffee, and she comes into her living room with 2 mugs, one for her and one for Janus, and she hands it out to him. She says, like, here, drink this. Um, Obviously, I don't have a change of clothes here for you. Does she have a change of clothes there for him? Oh, that would be good. How much does Tabitha have any of her old boy mode clothes? I'm gonna say she's been transitioned for a while, but there's probably something sentimental at the very least that she's held on to. Maybe she's a professor, she's busy as shit, it didn't matter that much to her. She just like added to her closet rather than cleaning out the last of it. I'm gonna say it's likely she actually has some clothes from when she was a guy. Uh, in fact, very yes. So not only does she have clothes from when she was a guy, she has lots of clothes from when she was a guy. So she never got rid of anything. Um, what would the reason for that be? I mean, fuck, I haven't gotten rid of anything, but so she hasn't gotten rid of any of her stuff. And she said, "Look, you can go take a shower. Um, we're about the same size. I've got some old stuff. I've got some clothes you can borrow." And Janus looks at her surprised. He's like, "But I don't want to." And she's like, "Don't worry, they're from before." And that's where they leave it. And Janus takes a shower. Janus, she comes back out from her bedroom, from her master closet. Is it her master closet or is it her? Is it like her attic? She wouldn't have put them in her attic. If she moved them, she would have thrown it away. So it's her master bedroom. She really just hasn't dealt with it. It's been years, and there's something about the finality of throwing away the clothes. Not that she's worried that she's going to detransition or anything like that. It's not that. There's something about engaging with it, though. To throw away the clothing, she has to engage with how she was pre-transition, and that can be uncomfortable. And so she hasn't done it. She's just left it in her closet. And so she goes in there and she comes out with like a pair of jeans and a band t-shirt. Does Tabitha like punk rock music too? Is that sort of a thing they share that they're not honest about? That would be a cool touch. I'm going to say yes. So Tabitha likes weird music. It is a me stand-in. So it's going to be especially electronica. But I'm going to say, well, that's just a little detail that's nice to have. But I'm going to say that she lends Janus a baby metal tee. So she's going to lend Janus a baby metal t-shirt. I'm going to write that one down because I really want to remember it later when we do more of a polished version of this thing. So she comes back out with jeans, a t-shirt, some socks, and she hands him that and she's like, "I have underwear, but I thought it would be weird here." And he thanks her. He takes a shower. When he gets out, he finds her having made, having finished her coffee, reading some white papers. She says, "You ready to go?" "Absolutely." And they get in the vehicle together and they go back to Janus's house. Janus's apartment, excuse me. And they go up and the police have done whatever modest amount of processing they're going to do. He opens his door, he goes in, and he starts to search the place. All right, and this is where we're going to actually engage with some cipher stuff instead of just mythic rolls. So I don't think Tabitha's got any skills recognizing, analyzing, understanding unknown or unusual devices or relics. So identifying is not really going to help us. Yeah, so, but predictive equation will. So Janus is going to start going through his stuff. And let's, let's say that it's a, I don't remember what the difficulty scales are in Cypher. Let's say that it's a D6 worth of difficulty to sort of identify, well, so they broke into his house for a reason. They only broke into the one unit, and it's all poor housing, so it's probably not theft. They're after something specific from Janus. So let's say that it's a D6 worth of difficulty in the Cypher system to figure out. So a difficulty 5 task to figure out what it is that they were stealing from Janus's apartment. So Janus is going to start digging through the rubble, and he's going to get just a straight up roll. And we said that, well, Janus doesn't really get a roll, right? We gave him a level, though. He's a level 3 NPC. So let's have him roll against his own ability, and if he rolls higher than his difficulty, he can assist. His poking around isn't just moping, it actually helps Tabitha in some way identify what was stolen. He doesn't. So he doesn't get there. So Tabitha, because she has the asset from studying the place, Janus is walking around, picking things up, seeing what we're seeing. He goes into the bathroom. That's the first place he goes. He opens the medicine cabinet. It's filled with, like, his medications are all down on the floor, but nothing walked away with it. And he's like, yeah, it's not surprising. It's not like I take opiates or something. I don't have any painkillers. The kitchen has been pulled apart, but none of the pots and pans are missing. They drank his beer, but they didn't steal anything from the kitchen. The bedroom, the mattress has been flipped and whatnot. Tabitha is going to ask, Tabitha, Janus, why would anyone break into your apartment? Because it's a really Spartanly furnished place. And you're like, I don't know. It's the bad side of town. Everyone around here is sort of hand to mouth. Maybe they thought because I worked at the university. Like, it's probably just someone in the building. Tabitha's not really buying it. So Tabitha is gonna do a search task on the house. And I'm gonna say that search is an intellect task, and we're gonna use 1 effort. So 1 effort costs 3 points, and we have an edge of 1, which means that 1 effort costs us 2 points. So we've got 13 remaining, and that's gonna ease our task by 1. And then, because we have the asset from observing the place, we're going to ease our task by 1 more. So we have to roll a 9 or more on a d20 in order to get it. And we rolled a 16. So Tabitha, is sitting there watching Janus poke around his apartment, move from room to room to room. And she's looking around the kitchen, and she's looking around the bathroom, and she's looking around the living room, and she's like, this stuff was dismantled for show. No one tosses the pots and pans out, right? This is not the sort of apartment like, they weren't looking for money or anything like that. Like, it's so Spartanly furnished. It's obvious that he doesn't have anything like that. And they weren't in here looking for drugs. No heroin user or pothead or whatnot has an apartment that doesn't have any paraphernalia out anywhere. And she's scanning the place, and then she catches the office, and she says, your computer is still in there. It's on. And Janus has a desktop computer in there. It's not on, but his computer is still in there. She's like, your computer's in there. If they were going to steal anything, why wouldn't they steal the high-end electronics? You got a PlayStation over there, you got a computer over there, your television is still intact. They broke the windows and they tossed the whole apartment. They didn't steal a TV. They didn't walk out with the PlayStation or with the computer. Those are both small items They pack well. They're expensive in a knapsack sense, like in a 0-1 knapsack problem. That's the shit the thief steals. What's going on here? So she knows that something's afoot, and she has a thing for it. So we need a noun. What we need is something that's in a house, or something that he has. So what the hell were they trying to steal? Or what is she going to think about next? Spell effects, starship terrain, undead, visions and dreams, smells, scavenging results, plot twist, objects. Objects. That's what we want. What objects are we going to get? So we got a 54. Lethal. Does Janus own a gun? Janus does not own a gun. It doesn't make any sense. What if we interpreted it instead as a 45? Healing. We already established that it's not the medication that they were after. There's an obvious answer here. I don't know why I'm rolling. There is some... He's first PhD student. He's not far in. But that's what it's going to be. They... because the whole thing was that it was moving away from Janus graduating cleanly, although, my God, Janus has had a rough night. The thing we're going to do is we're going to say that his computer is on and it's in there, or it's in there. Tabitha, like, notices the computer's there and walks over and turns it on, and it refuses to boot. Because the main drives are missing. And she goes up and is like, Janus, they stole your hard drive but not the computer? What's going on? And he seizes up. He seizes up like a deer in headlights. And he says, what? And runs into the room. And starts freaking out. And she's like, how bad can it be, right? Your research is all backed up on the university computers. He said, no, I started on something recently, and I've been researching it here rather than at school because I was embarrassed about it. I was worried someone would find out what I was researching and that I wouldn't be taken seriously in the department anymore. And she is going to find out that Janus is also interested in the Pythagorean cult. And that's where we're gonna leave it off. So we're gonna find out that both of the characters, both Tabitha and Janus, have this interest in occult mathematics and numerology. And maybe it's not the Pythagorean cult. Maybe instead Janus is interested in more like Kabbalah. But he's gonna also have a deep interest in numerology, and they're going to have been hiding this from each other. Or maybe he knew about hers. And maybe he knew about hers, and that was why he chose her as an advisor. I don't know. But there's been this sort of, they're hiding their mutual interest in numerology. Janus has a stolen hard drive. His house has been tossed. And they have the issue of the student honor code. Honor code cleanup. So we have to effectively keep Janus in school, figure out what the hell is going to happen to Anthony, because he got into a fight in prison. That's never good. Someone broke into Janus's apartment. Who did that? And they stole his hard drive. So that gives us a pretty good opening set of bullshit for our main characters to deal with. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop the recording. I'm going to We talked a little bit about tooling. Maybe I'll show some of this off in the process episode. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to strip the audio from this video, pass it through Whisper to get an audio transcript back, and then use that to try to get some summaries out of that to figure out what the major beats are and edit those with my recollection and the hand-taken notes that I've got to produce the scene so that I don't have to sit here and type it in front of you. I will be back next time with a process episode that shows both a little bit of the tool chain that I use as well as the output of that tool chain, because I think that'll be interesting to show. So I'll catch you all then. Have a good evening.